Hey guys, my name is Jamie. I'm the creator of Paradise Down, a manga published in Saturday AM. This video will be a different format. It won't be the manga analysis type of format that we had for the last video. I'm definitely working more on those. The next one is in the works. It will be more so about manga backgrounds, what makes them efficient, who does them well, and I'll be using that as an example while drawing my own manga Paradise Down. I'll be showing you guys how to draw a background and how to draw them efficiently. But that'll be for the next video. This one will be more of a laid back video. It's more of a let's draw. And this one will be drawing Kizuna AI. She's a virtual YouTuber. Pretty creative idea. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with her, but she's been taken off recently. And along other, a few other imitators like the Kaguya Lunas, Mirai Arakis. It's a pretty cool idea, and it's a cool welcome change to YouTube as a whole. Now for this format, it's more so a chance for me to kick back, talk to you guys, throw some little tidbits about myself, and maybe even some art tricks. For here, I'm using a 0.1 micron. Whenever you get to the major limbs, if that makes sense, like the shoulders or the thighs connecting to the hips, you usually want to add a curve, so usually you should go over them a few more times. It makes up for the fact that the microns themselves don't differ in line width, as opposed to a G pen. But without that line width, your drawings will feel pretty flat and boring. So it's definitely something you want to incorporate to your drawing style, regardless of the kind of art style you have. Now the markers I'll be using for this drawing are Copics. They're my go-to drawing supplies. Skin colors can be a little tricky. For light skin characters, I tend to use E000 with E02 to shade, while darker skin characters I tend to use E11 and E15. No, E13, my mistake. Usually when you want to use these things, you want to have some scrap paper underneath it. I'm not sure if you can tell, I have some right there with splotches of colors and stuff, because they tend to bleed, and when they bleed, they will ruin any image you're working on, and it can be very frustrating. It's happened to me a couple of times, and it can take the wind out of your sail, and you'll definitely not want to draw for a while when it does happen to you. Usually when you're changing out the colors, like when you're refilling them, this tends to happen the most, especially with older markers. If you've had them for over a year or so and you've refilled them once or twice, I'm not sure if it's the felt tip itself, but it tends to wear down, and because of it, it doesn't retain the ink as well, so they'll be more prone to bleeding. So again, you always want to have this scrap piece of paper because it will save your life. You always want to test it out. I know I've edited it out, I believe, in this video to save time, but prior to using any marker, I tend to push the image up, bring the scrap paper down, and then I will take the marker, make sure it's not bleeding, and then test it on the scrap paper before moving on to the actual image itself. Just something I had to learn the hard way. So a little wisdom I'm trying to impart. For this one, I love her color scheme. It's very bright. It's very fun to work on. I'm not really a fan of muted colors, if that makes sense. Sort of that Call of Duty, all gray, all brown kind of color scheme. I'm not a fan of that. It's no fun. It's not fun to the eyes, and it's just not fun to work on. I tend to like really bright, fantastical type of things. Something that pops out. Grew up in the 90s. Shoot me. All our comic books back then were pretty pretty colorful. Right now I'm using the E02 to shade her skin. For these, if you ever have Copics and you don't have what you believe is the proper one, the proper color to shade a color with, you can get away with it by using cool grays, like a C3 or a C2, and you can go over them, and usually the gray will blend in with the previous color and create almost a natural looking effect in terms, you'll see this by the end once the finished product is done. White can be a very tricky color, to add shading to, because if it's not done well, there's nothing really there to save you, in a sense. Nothing there to really cushion that contrast. and it'll look really bad. For my combination, I use a combination of C3 cool gray, and I believe it was a B00 frost blue kind of thing. I laid down the grays first, and then moved on to the blues on top to sort of lessen the contrast between the white and the gray, because it was pretty drastic. But overall, I was happy with how it came out. Keep that in mind. The white in particular can be shaded in many different ways depending on the light source, the kind of fabric they're wearing. You know, it's a very tricky color and can mess up a lot of people. Again, this is more of a laid back video. For anyone who watched my first video, I thank you for the support. It meant a lot to me, and I will definitely be working on more of those kinds of manga analysis kind. But due to my busy schedule, I just wasn't able to finish up the one I was working on at the moment. But I am very excited. I'm hoping you do like the manga background one when it does come out. I will be working on the other AI girls. There will definitely be a video for Mirai Araki, for Kaguya Luna. If there's anyone else you'd like to suggest, I'm open for it. I was thinking about tackling Guts or Ippo next after the AI girls, but I would like to structure those in a manga analysis way. So I'm still trying to think of how to incorporate it. I think I have an idea for Ippo for sure. But for Guts, he'll be a little bit more tricky, especially that most of his content is pretty, well, to say the least, non-PG. So maybe I'll do something on cross-hatching or something like that. But here I am laying down the final grays. Again, I did go over it again with the frost blue because it was just too much of a contrast. I'll show you the finished product now. I'd like to thank you for staying with me and listening to me and watching this video. If you'd like more of these videos, let me know. Again, as always, thanks for watching.